If the Big South OVC polls are correct, then Eddie George is in store for the best year of his Tennessee State tenure. Oh, yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Make it Locked On HBCU, your first listen of the day, every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. Just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com and make every moment more. And I understand that sports may not be sporting the way that you want them to, but FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost and bonus daily. That's right, a daily boost or bonus every single day, all summer long for every single person. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. We're going to wrap up today's episode with a look at the CBS Sports Classic. They have a new basketball doubleheader coming on around a couple of days after Christmas. So let's break that down because I think it's pretty cool, even though we're about to step into the real heart of football season. Prior to that, Morgan Price is a Hall of Famer. Morgan Price is not even out of being a teenager yet. This is absolutely phenomenal, and I want to break this down. So we kick off today's episode staying in the state of Tennessee with Tennessee State, who is projected to finish fourth in the Big South OVC this year. This is a big time improvement. They had a log jam at the sixth overall spot, so they were between 6 and 9. So who really cares to really separate that? There's not like the NFL where you have divisions and all right, the third place team needs to face this third place team. All I know is that there was a big log jam at 6, and Tennessee State on the website comes in at the bottom, but everybody had a 2-4 record in the conference. Here's my thing about Tennessee State or specifically Tennessee State finishing fourth, is fourth is not a playoff team, but what it is it's another step. Being fourth in the Big South OVC will be another step for Tennessee State. And the reason I feel like that's important is because towards the end of last year, you heard them talking about the progression of Eddie George's tenure. So if we're not looking at it from a black and white perspective and we're looking at it as a step by step, we're not looking at it, there we go, not black and white, even though that does work for the analogy. We're not looking at Eddie George strictly off of results. We're looking at how those results were gained. Then I'm looking at the steps and getting to fourth place in the Big South OVC merger in the second year of that, in the fourth year of his tenure, to me would be another step. That would be another time to say, okay, we're progressing in the right direction, because off of last year, you're not going to be able to do what you did in 2023 and achieve the results that are expected of you in 2024. And I don't mean expected from your own camp, because that's different. Your own expectations are vastly different, and the confidence you have in your room are vastly different. All of those things change. But when you're looking at the conference and the voters and who they said is going to end up where, they expect Tennessee State to be the fourth best team in this conference. They can't play like they did last year during conference play and come out with the fourth best record. Okay, now let's look at what Eddie George has done, because to me, Tennessee State finishing fourth would be the best year of Eddie George's tenure, and not because of the ranking, just because of what's necessary to get to that seeding. So in year one, he was the fifth place team in the then OVC. This was before the merger. In year one, he was fifth place. They were 3-3 in the conference and 5-6 overall. In year two, he was third place, which is much better than fifth place, even better than fourth, which is why I can't just solely base this off of seeding. But they were third place in year two, but they were 2-3 in the conference, and they were 4-7 overall. That's a strange year. They were tied with Tennessee Tech at third place at 2-3, but they actually defeated Tennessee Tech. So we're going to go ahead and give them the tiebreaker of being third place. But at the top of the Big South, or excuse me, at the top of the OVC was 2 5-0 teams. Everybody else was scrubs. This was a runaway division of 2 squads. There was a large amount of separation. So being third place does not feel great to me. That I can't necessarily consider that season a success, especially when you look at the fact that they didn't have a winning record. They were 4-7 that season. So it's very difficult for me to sit there and say, oh, we love what you've been able to do in year 2. But then you get to year 3. And just for the record, I don't consider that a dismissal. I'm just not overly impressed. So if you consider it impressive, then it's probably a dismissal. But to me, I'm not trying to just downplay what they've accomplished. I don't think that's a great accomplishment, period. Now you go into segment, or excuse me, year 3, which was last year. You want a match. In year 2, that wasn't a match. Your standings and your records did not match each other. In this year of year 3, you didn't match your out-of-conference production with your in-conference production. For the first time in Eddie George's tenure, he had a winning record, 6-5. That is a step forward. They went 4-1 in out-of-conference play. The only team that they lost to was Notre Dame, right? And that was a big school. You know what that was. You didn't lose to anybody else. But then you get in your conference play and you go 2-5, or excuse me, 2-4. That's not going to work. And you have to match the out-of-conference success with the in-conference success. And then you have to come together to have a winning season in both conference play and overall record. And I believe that if you come up to 4th, you will do that, because to get 4th, you're more than likely going to need to have a winning record in your conference. This year's 4th place team ended up going 4-2 in conference play. So if you're going to achieve that same level of success, you're going to need that same level of record. Maybe you can get by with a 500. I doubt it, though. I really think you're going to have a winning record in order to be 4th place. And they did expand the amount of conference games that they're going to have. So they went from 6 last year to having 8 this year. When you look at the out-of-conference schedule, so I'm looking at 5-3, 6-2. 6-2 is going to be really good. Actually, you're probably fighting for 3rd, 2nd place if you go 6-2. That'll be very impressive. But then you're looking at Valley, North Dakota State, UAPB, and Howard. So you're going a strong contingent of HBCU schools. And I think that you could beat all 3 of those HBCU schools, right? I think that North Dakota State is the one where that's probably the Notre Dame of this year. And I understand they're an FCS team, but that's top tier. And I don't know if Tennessee State is there yet. And if they are, then we're going to have a real big conversation, because that's going to be early in the season. And we'll be looking at Tennessee State under a microscope if they're able to knock off North Dakota State. We'll be looking at them completely different for the remainder of the season if they're able to win that game in Fargo. Like, that's a fact. But yeah, they could knock off Valley. They could knock off UAPB. They could knock off Howard. Like, I think all of these games are winnable games. They're games where you shouldn't count them out for sure. And if they're able to win those games, let's say they go 3-1, let's say they go 2-2, right? Over the next 10 games, or excuse me, the next 8 games, all you have to do is go 5-3 in your conference, and you will have a winning record for the first time in his tenure as in conference play. Because even when you were just with the OVC, the best you went was 3-3. Now you have a winning record 2 years in a row overall, your first ever conference winning record. I think that if you're able to achieve what they believe, and that is a 4th place finish, then you will be looking at Eddie George as having the best year of his tenure at Tennessee State. Speaking of Tennessee, let's keep it in the state and go to the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, because Morgan Price is a Hall of Famer. And no, this is not a joke. No, this is not some new lingo where everybody's the GOAT. She's literally in the Hall of Fame, and we'll break down where she is as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And I understand it's summertime. The sports aren't sporting the way that you want them to. I get it. But don't forget, football is right there around the horizon. You can start putting some money down on some preseason games. But if you're a little bit antsy and you don't want to wait, that's okay. Take advantage of the daily boost and bonus that you get as an existing or as a new customer for FanDuel. because every single day for every single person, there will be a daily boost or bonus all summer long. So go ahead, go to fanduel.com, put some money down on the WNBA, put some money down on the Olympics, put some money down on the MLB. Want something more your speed, maybe you're a football guy, football gal, go ahead and put some down on the futures. You can put some money down on week one already. Already you can put bets down on who's going to win or lose against the spread in week one. So go ahead and go to fanduel.com. Once again, that's going to fanduel.com. If you do that, take advantage of the daily boost every single day and make every moment more. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked On Sports Today. The whole thing, type it in Locked On Sports Today. Don't forget the today, and go ahead and take advantage and enjoy yourself while watching the first of its kind live sports network on YouTube that runs 24/7 all day, every day. Go to Locked On Sports Today and subscribe. Morgan Price is a Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer. This is amazing to me. When you this isn't a way like that people like, oh you the GOAT. You're not really the greatest of all time. You just did something cool. Or this is not something that you use loosely. This is not some new slang that folks are using now, right? When you look at Morgan Price, she is 100% and literally a Hall of Famer. My mind is blown by this because at 19 years old, she is immortalized forever. She is still a teenager, and her name is written in cement. Her name is here forever as a Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer. And I think that this is a great representation of not only who she is, but also what she's accomplished and what she represents for Fisk University, what she represents for her community, what she represents for her sport, because she is the first ever gymnast to be inducted in the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame as well. And I don't think that Price is unfamiliar with being first. I don't think that's something that's new to her. She understood what her responsibilities were when she stepped on Fisk University campus. She understood what her responsibilities were when she decided to decommit from the University of Arkansas. So the pressure that has been on her has been before she even stepped foot on campus. And she's done nothing but deliver since then. You look at just last season, she was a first team All-American for the second year in a row, but then she was also the USA Gymnastics National Champion in the all-around. So I'm watching what she's been able to do for Fisk University, and I'm in awe. But then when I see her go into the Hall of Fame, you realize just how big it is, right? But like I was watching this podcast with Kevin Hart and Schoolboy Q recently, and Hart was talking about taking a step back and just realizing what you're accomplishing in the moment. And I hope that Price is able to take a step back, even though she's in the midst of it right now, about to go into her junior year. I hope that she's able to just take a seat and realize exactly what is going on right now. Because I don't know if she's the youngest Hall of Famer in Tennessee sports history, but I would have to imagine that she's one of them. 19 years old. Just turned 19, by the way. Right? I had to look it up. I said, dang. And when you look at the people who are next to her, Chris Johnson, CJ2K, NFL veteran, been retired for years. You're looking at Chris Burke, MLB player, former MLB player, and a University of Tennessee Hall of Famer. So this isn't even his first Hall of Fame. You're looking at Scott Hamilton, a gold medalist in figure skating. You're looking at people in no way are her peers. Not only she's the only woman inducted this year, she's the first gymnast, like I said earlier. You look at the peers, and the age gap is significant because Hall of Fame is typically something that you see well after your career is over. It's not a lot of people who are inducted in the Hall of Fame when you're still present. She's been inducted in the Tennessee State Hall of Fame, and she still has, in the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, and she still has years to go on her collegiate journey. This is a magnificent achievement. And when I say I hope she's stepping back, I hope she realizes the power. And we have a quote from her, right? She says, "I'm honored to be inducted in the Sports Hall of Fame. Sports and gymnastics are an essential part of my wellness commitment. It gives me a chance to speak about the importance of movement while being a role model for young girls who share my dream of success in gymnastics." That last part about being a role model, whether she wanted it or not, I'm glad that she did. But whether she wanted it or not, that was the role that was placed upon her. When she left a big school like Arkansas, or decommitted, because she was never technically there. But when she decommitted from a big school like Arkansas to come to Fisk, the first ever HBCU gymnastics program, now the only HBCU gymnastics program. We're hoping that Talladega is able to do something, but I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those athletes from Talladega didn't go to Fisk. But now being a part of Fisk, she is the face of HBCU gymnastics because she was a big deal before coming to Fisk. She is it's very similar to me, at least. It's very similar to Travis Hunter going to Jackson State, because Travis Hunter wasn't just a big grab for HBCUs. He was a big grab, period. And he went to an HBCU, which magnifies the impact of what he was able to be. That's how I look at Price. She was a big deal. She was a big recruit who chose to come to an HBCU, decommitted from her SEC school, and chose to come to an HBCU. She has properly gotten acclimated. She has properly performed to live up to every single piece of the hype that she has been given. She is a national champion. She is an All-American, right? And the role model label is one that she gladly accepts, and she's done everything to live up to it and be a great role model for young Black girls who are trying to get into gymnastics. That's why I say what she represents for her community. What she represents is the face of HBCU gymnastics. What she represents is, and in that goes to the community of race and gender as well, right? But she is the face of HBCU gymnastics. She is on the forefront of everything. I seen her on Good Morning Texas briefly. I was watching something, it was recorded. Good Morning Texas was on the back end, so I didn't get to catch it, but I have it in my mind to go YouTube it, right? She's everywhere. She's a spokesperson. She's a face of it. She is an excellent athlete, because you have some people who are spokesperson, who are face, and they're solely the face, but everything she has done makes her, how do I want to put this? Because I want to put it the right way. I want to put it appropriately. She's not just a face in terms of she's a good person to put in front of everybody. She's done everything to deserve to be in the front of everybody and showcasing. I'm Morgan Price. This is Fisk University. This is HBCU gymnastics, and I am a Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer as a teenager. That's incredible. So as we push forward, let's look at the CBS Sports Classic, because I know it's approaching football season, but this was something that was so cool. I couldn't pass it up. I had to make sure I got all three of these things in. We can hit the Alabama A&M quarterback battle. We can hit the PV quarterback battle next week, maybe even tomorrow, depending on how much MEAC Media Day information we get. But these three things had to be talked about, especially this last one that I knew as soon as I saw it. I said, I can't wait to relay this to my viewers. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked on HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. I know it's football season. I get it. I'm here. Y'all know what my love is. But the CBS Sports Classic HBCU Showcase, which is not a tongue twister, but it kind of felt like it in the middle of that, is something that needed to be highlighted immediately. This could not wait for a couple of days, right? I don't know when the next time I'll be able to get to some new information. I don't. I know what tomorrow's episode is going to be about. It's going to be about MEAC Media Day. We're going to do at least 2 segments on that. I know that to be sure. Thursday and Friday should have Gerald Huggins coming on. I texted him to make sure that we could cement it. Oh, he just said something. Boom. Perfect. Well, I was about to tell you how I'm recording early, so he hadn't been able to get back to me. But literally, as I'm checking my messages, he said we can do Wednesday. So we will record this on Wednesday, the 2-part segment. Top 10 players, 10 through 6 will release on Thursday, and then 5 through 1 release on Friday. So I'm very excited. That was cool. I have been checking my messages periodically through this, and I was like, he's not going to respond right now. He'll get to me in a little bit. But yeah, all right. Anyway, that's great. Live reactions. I always love when I can give y'all raw information, or raw reactions and raw emotions. And There you go. Shout out to my guy G for that. Segment 3. But yeah, the CBS Sports Classic had to get gotten to immediately. It was too big of a deal. Um, December 28th. I understand that NBA officially, unofficially starts on Christmas Day. And you look at this HBCU showcase, which is just a couple of days later on December 28th. You're going to have Hampton versus Howard at Hampton. And then you're going to have North Carolina Central versus North Carolina A&T at A&T. This is a little bit different from the Invesco QQQ Legacy Classic that you've seen over the last couple of years that was brought to you by Michael B. Jordan. The difference in that is that it was a neutral site. It was a doubleheader, HBCU. It was on TNT, and it was in Newark, New Jersey. So with it being in Newark, New Jersey, you had the idea of people having to travel. You had people who weren't in the area. Like, this is, you don't have to worry about that. This is in North Carolina, right? Like this is in Virginia, and the home fans don't have to worry about traveling and getting plane tickets or worry about getting hotel fares or none of that. And there's a value to having neutral site. I think we've gone over that enough times for you to know I'm not criticizing a neutral site. I think there's a large amount of value in recruiting athletically and academically by having neutral site athletic events. But this one right here, it's just different. It's not better or worse. It's just different. And I'll tell you one thing that I think will be cool is I'm assuming that CBS is going to bring their broadcast to the game, right? Like you've seen ESPN Plus has varying degrees of how good the broadcast looks. I expect that CBS Sports will have a pretty strong broadcast stream. They'll take both of these camera crews to two different schools, one Hampton, one North Carolina A&T. It's a doubleheader, so it's the same day. It's not like they'll be at Hampton on Saturday, they'll be at A&T on a Sunday. Both of these games are going to happen on the 28th. I just thought about this because a big part of my point is crowd, but the kids won't be in school. So I wonder what they'll probably encourage. Some of them will, but most of them won't. They'll probably encourage a heavy amount of alumni representation. But I think that's a big thing, or that's a good thing about picking rivalries, because you have Hampton versus Howard, you have A&T versus Central. These are games in which people are excited for, period. People are excited for these games. They don't happen in the conference anymore, but they're still very, very excited. Look, Howard's been winning a couple of these games recently, but Hampton had been smacking them. It's been bad. I was looking at the history like, geez, Hampton really, when it comes to the battle of the HU, Hampton be tearing them up. But Howard's been winning a couple of them. It's been a little bit more back and forth. Central versus A&T is back and forth. Wow. Okay. I wonder why they planned it on a time when the students aren't going to be on campus. But yeah, they're probably going to promote a lot of alumni to come out there because I think optics are important, right? Like product ain't enough. Just putting up good work, it ain't enough. Like, I'll take my show for example. I personally, and maybe this is cocky, but I personally think that I put out a pretty decent show. I really do. And if there was no promotion attached to it, I wouldn't have barely any subscribers, right? Like, it just makes it significantly more difficult on yourself. I wouldn't have anybody coming and checking it out. Like, my views would be in the single digits because you have to promote yourself. Otherwise, people won't know about it. On here, optics are important. You can't just have a good game. It's not like, oh man, that was a really good game, we're gonna keep putting it on. No, we need people to tune in. We need people to show up. We need to make money. You need those things. And I think having a rivalry is important because optically, you're gonna have a full crowd probably. I can't believe I didn't think about the whole date until I said it out loud of December 28th, people not being on campus. But you will probably have a better crowd than if you just did Texas Southern versus, I don't know, Maryland Eastern Shore, right? Like, TSU is really good at basketball, don't get me wrong, but I don't know how much they're going to travel for that type of game. I don't know how important it's going to be to them. If you do a TSU versus Valley game, I don't know I only want TSU versus Jackson State, right? Texas Southern versus Jackson State. I don't know if that game is going to go crazy in the HP&E. I don't. That's the arena. I don't know if a bunch of people are just coming out, but you do TSU versus PV. Oh, it's rocking. And college sports are all about environment. We know how people feel about him. What's the toughest stadium to play? And that conversation is had in professional athletics, but I think that is louder and more prevalent in collegiate athletics. So I think that the choice of having these two games, very smart. That's good business because you trust that people are going to show up. You trust that people are going to watch. You trust that people are going to create a good atmosphere that looks good on camera when it comes to a rivalry game. So whoever's making decisions like that in CBS's side of things, I got to give you a round of applause because that was extremely smart. It was extremely smart. And I hope to see this expand. Howard and Hampton, they were actually on the Invesco QQQ Legacy Classic. So this is the second time that they'll be on national TV playing their basketball game against each other for the battle of the real HU. Well, I think that this is fantastic, great marketing. I think that I'm about to wrap up the entire show, but I think that this was great marketing, great planning, great selection. I think that Morgan Price is a great achievement, or Morgan Price going into the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame is a great achievement. And I think that Tennessee State finishing fourth is a really good, I'm not going to say great, but a really good step forward in the progression of Eddie George and the Tennessee State Tigers underneath his leadership. Now, in tomorrow's episode, it will be about the MEAC Media Day. As you're hearing this, has probably happened, but y'all know the drill. We record early, record the day before, and we put it out early in the morning for you. So by the time that you've heard this, if you're an early bird, the MEAC Media Day hasn't happened, but maybe you waited to the afternoon. I'm still appreciative of you being the first listen, but just know that next morning, we will be at MEAC Media Day talking about it. So I can't wait to get to that. In the meantime, in between time, until next time that we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.